I mean, in the period in the 60s, it's kind of amazing. As this very young man, he is absolutely central to the sit-ins of 1960. The Nashville group that he's a part of, that he's a leader of, is kind of one of the most important chapters, kind of doing the lunch counter sit-ins. In 61, he's really one of the key figures in the freedom rides. In 63, he's now chairman of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and speaks at the March on Washington. He's there Mississippi Freedom Summer in 64, and then, of course, Selma in 65, where he leads the march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge for voting rights and gets beaten within an inch of his life, and that helps mobilize the country to get behind a voting rights bill, a historic voting rights bill. So he's really, despite being a man of 20, 25 years old, really central to all these events of that period. And then, as you say, he goes on to have this long and illustrious career in politics, but because it is long lived, he sort of becomes a familiar face and not necessarily somebody you think, oh, I really need to know the full story of this man's life. So it turned out to be not only interesting, but full of a lot of surprises and stuff that just hadn't been reported. And it was a real opportunity as well as, a privilege to write his life. I found this footage of John Lewis in a hospital bed on the day of, it might be the day after, I think it's the day of though, Bloody Sunday. And it was just sort of identified as like Negro man in a hospital bed, as they would have said at the time,
Right.
and she had the wherewithal to say, hey, that's John Lewis. And then, figured out it was actually right after the Selma beating. And, we do know that reporters came to him in the hospital, but nobody had really seen this footage. What's remarkable about it to me is, here, after taking this tremendous beating and during this violence, not only Mr. Lewis, but, many other of these brave marchers among the Selma citizens who had been out there agitating for their rights. What does he talk to reporters about? Nonviolence.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
really felt this deeply, believed deeply in the creed of Dr. King, of Gandhi. For some, the nonviolence was a useful tactic. For Lewis, as for King, it was something he felt in the depth of his being, and just how this could be a transformative philosophy, that you don't strike back, you try to even love the people who are beating you, and that this will have a transformative effect on your oppressors, on society. And it's hard to retain faith in that. It doesn't always work immediately or with great results, but in those years, it did have a dramatic impact on the nation.